first two. Okay, I'd like to welcome you all to a special budget meeting of the Town Council. And at this time, I'd like you to ask you to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. Okay, we have a few announcements, but first I think I'll start off with letting you know Betty, unfortunately, has been knocked out with the flu for, I believe we're going on about a sixth or seventh day. Hopefully, she won't walk through that door, but the last time I said that, about 8 months ago, she walked through the door, but we won't see her tonight. She may be getting a hold of department heads there, sending emails or asking other questions that she may have. So just give everyone a heads up, and that will go through Keith, I imagine. Finley has some family stuff he's on right now, and we expect Finley to probably make it here for Parks and Rec. And what we will be doing is to give everyone a heads up and to kind of give him a little room to get here too, is after we do library and buildings and ground, we'll be doing a 10-minute recess, and that will probably assure that Finley will be here to begin Parks and Rec. All right. Announcements. Upcoming Town Council meetings for January. Thursday, January 11th, 2007, 6 p.m. Regular meeting of the Town Council, and that will also include a public hearing. That commences at 6 p.m. Wednesday, January 17th, another budget workshop. That'll start at 6. That'll be wastewater treatment, equipment maintenance, highway, solid waste disposal, and public works administration. Thursday, again, 6 p.m. There will be another budget workshop. That'll be fire, communications, police, general government, and debt service. So I suggest we all may want to take a nap during the afternoon on that one. That's some of the heavy-duty stuff. The 22nd is a snow date in case we miss some of the early meetings. It's also a final review on all department budgets. And Thursday, January 25th, is a regular council meeting, which will include a toll update from Deb Pignatelli. At that time, we'll also be doing our voting on the operating budget and special warrant articles. Again, to repeat for anyone that didn't see our first budget workshop last Thursday, what we are doing here is attempting to listen and ask questions. We will not be moving anything, changing, adding, deleting, but we'll basically be taking information. On the 25th is when members of the council will be looking to make additions or subtractions from Keith's budget. Committee openings. The town's newly created Economic Development Citizen Advisory Committee is seeking members for the following terms: 4 members for 1-year term, 4 members for 2-year terms, 3 members for 3-year terms. Interested parties should send a letter of intent, resume, and any other pertinent information to Town Hall. Attention committees. These positions were advertised on December 15th, 2006, and pursuant to the appointment policy will continue to be advertised for at least 30 days, January 15th, 2007, and thereafter until the positions are filled. From what we have seen, there has been a very high amount of interest in these positions for the Economic Development Committee, so my suggestion would be that anyone that does have an interest, that they would probably want to get their resume and letter of intent in prior to the 15th, because I know once we begin interviewing, I know everyone's anxious to get this going. Events. The Town Manager's Office received 13 entries for the 2006 Annual Report Cover Design Contest. They are in the process of making the final decision. Acknowledgement. As always, I would like to thank the Merrimack Village District for providing us with water this evening. I'm sure it's on its way. Okay. We're going to get going. but I'll do a very quick review on how the council decided we wanted to do things as we go through all of the departments. Basically, we'll have representatives from the departments in question come forward. They'll speak to the council about everything that they feel is pertinent to the budget and why they put the numbers out they did. In fact, I take a step back on that. Keith will be presenting that, I think, for everything except the library. And then at that time, members of the departments, for everyone else, will come forward. We will ask questions beginning at one end, going around. And then after that, anyone on the council that has further questions, we'll continue to ask them at that point. Once we are done, we'll move forward to the next department. Again, we're here to hear information. If any of us have concerns with particular items, it would always be a good time to at least bring it up in case we need more information to help us in our decision-making. We may want to do it at that time. Okay, does anyone on the council have anything they'd like to say at this time before we begin? Then I would like to ask representatives from the library to come forward. Okay, and if someone could introduce the four of you so we all know who we have. And the first time you speak, if you could also introduce yourself at that time too, just so Tracy can begin putting faces and names together.
Okay. I'm Pat Heinrich. I'm the chairman of the Library Board of Trustees.
John Buckley, the treasurer of the Library Board of Trustees.
Janet Angus, the director of the library. Ann Burrows, I'm a member of the board of trustees.
Okay, welcome.
Thank you. As you know, ordinarily, in years past, we've presented a budget to the Budget Committee. We've prepared a budget and put it to the Budget Committee. But with the new town council and the dissolution of the Budget Committee, our responsibility is to prepare a budget and present it to you. So that's what we're here to do tonight. I would tell you that our budget was prepared with 4 objectives in mind. The first was to work with the criteria that the council put forth. The second was to provide quality services at the library for the residents. The third was to recruit and retain employees. And the last was to maintain our current building. The proposal that's in front of you, the major increases in that are our building maintenance. Our building is very old, and we keep thinking that we have solved all of the problems, but things keep cropping up, and we're doing the best we can to keep with it. So that's where our major increases are, is in that. That's the things that we can control. The other thing, in keeping with the recruiting and retaining employees, 2 years ago, we did a salary survey because we were having difficulty filling professional positions at the library. And we discovered that we were, if not the bottom step, the next to the bottom step with similar communities. So we put together a new salary scale. It was huge. So last year, we did half of that salary scale to move our employees where we wanted them to be. This year, we
I
are
could
proposing...
interrupt. The acoustics in here aren't all that well, so we could ask people if they have to speak, if they could step outside. So we're just listening to one thing at a time. Thank you, Pat. I apologize. Thank you.
What I started to say was we had intended to fully fund the second half of the salary adjustment this year. With the council's request for a near-level budget, we are only proposing to do a portion of that as an increase. So those are our 2 major increases. Our major decrease is that we are proposing closing the library on Sundays. And in addition, we have taken 1 hour away from each of the 20 part-time employees. And that's really all I have to say about the budget. We've done the best that we could to bring it back to you as level funded as possible.
Okay. Any questions? And I'll begin with Tom.
Yeah, Pat. Wages hourly,
page circulation, is this a typo in here that says 16.13 an hour? Is that a goof?
Can I answer?
Go
Or is
for
that,
it.
or is that
Yeah,
a
what
miss?
happened is, and I'm not quite sure Paul is aware of this, the lines here are, there should only be, if you start at the bottom where it says page aid, take your finger, you should only have 4-page circulation. That aid 1, technical services, should be down on the line you just questioned.
Okay,
Then the other 2, circ and tech people, should both go down each a line, and you should add in 1 more circulation, just plain circulation aid. I don't know how this happened, but the numbers are correct in the lines, but that, we only have 4 pages, but we do have 6 aid ones. And then I think you will see that makes a lot more sense.
We also should tell you that we have a couple of employees that were involved in the retirement buyback from a couple of years ago. And as a result, Janet, you'd be best to explain that too, but their pay per hour includes a negotiated settlement with the town manager to deal with the closing of the retirement plans.
okay.
For long-term employees.
Those were long-term employees that were involved, and when the retirement plan closed, because they could not join the New Hampshire retirement system, only full-time employees can. There was an arrangement worked out that they would be paid an appropriate amount, so their weekly wage went up based on that. The position is still the base wage.
It covered other town employees, that wasn't unique
Yeah,
to
there
the
were other,
library.
yes,
were
there
other
was, there were other
similarly
town employees
situated
that it affects,
employees.
but I think we had more than anyone else.
Okay. There's another, I talked to Paul about this before, there's another gaffe on 8104. Actually, it's in the 8136 account, where it's showing part-time at $233,848. It's 8136.
8136 is unemployment.
Yeah. And it lists the full amount for your part-time, what you have identified as part-time staff, the full salary amount, and you only pay on the first $8,000. You only contribute to the unemployment account on the first $8,000, which brings that down to $85,521, which only reduces it by about $234. It's just the wrong number apparently got plugged into that line.
But we'll make those changes.
Okay.
I don't see. Okay, Papa.
Another 8374 programs.
Yes.
You budget $3,000 for the library festival. How much of that comes out of that? Because apparently there's a $6,200 offset there for
No.
trustee funds? Or is that in addition to?
Library Festival is all trustee funds. The other
Okay.
items there, 3,200 is used for the other items.
Okay. And what do you typically net on the library festival in terms of revenue?
Between 3,000 and 5,000. But that goes into the library development fund, so that's not part of, that doesn't come out of here.
Okay. 8450, audiovisual materials,
Yes,
the increase to $9,000.
yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Because of circulation, we did a, how much we spend on items and how much circulation they get, and the AV materials are getting the biggest circulation, so we took some away from books and put it into the AV materials.
So this is purchasing additional materials.
Right,
Correct.
based on use.
So what are we talking about here? DVDs and,
DVDs, books on CD, music CDs, video cassettes, although we don't buy anymore with those unless it's absolutely the only way we can get it. CD-ROMs that we use in the computer.
On that analysis, I mean, those AV materials as a percentage are growing at a higher percentage rate than some of the traditional printed media. And so we've been increasing it there. And you also notice that we have increased the amount of trustees' funds going into the materials area as well.
We traditionally get a donation from Anheuser-Busch, and traditionally, that's where it goes, is to AV materials.
Okay.
That would be coming in as trustee funds.
Now, going back to 8104, you said you made an adjustment last year in your wages,
Yes, sir.
and that jumped from 0506 actual to budget in 0607, 16%.
Yes.
How much of an increase are you positing for this year? You said you were just making a minor adjustment in that.
50% of what we were planning, or 25% of what was the whole jump.
Can you give me a dollar amount?
Well, it's in the two categories. The wages supervisory looks like it's going up,
It varies between the jobs. That's why it's
14,000
not a certain percentage.
I can give you a position. The assistant director is currently making $22.15. We are proposing $23.03. We would have been proposing $23.91.
Now, the difference between the budget last year and the budget this year on supervisory is about 5.5%. And the wages hourly went down, but I presume that's because you peeled out
Yes.
52 hours per year per part-time employee.
Plus, yes.
Plus what?
Or I was going to say the 4 hours on Sunday.
Plus the 4 hours on
The 4
Sunday.
hours on Sunday. And the overtime line was the fact that we had to pay time and a half on Sundays, or we did pay time and a half to our part-timers on Sunday. No longer. And that was started 10 years ago when we opened on Sundays as sort of a carrot, and no longer. So that's been peeled out as well.
Tom, may I ask a clarification question, if I could?
Yeah, sure.
Thanks. I'm probably looking in the wrong place, but when you were quoting you just quoted a salary of about 23,000, and I thought I heard you say assistant director. What was it you were saying?
it was an hour.
Hourly wage.
Okay, so I just don't want anyone at home to be confused. It's not $22,000 a year, it's 22.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, that's basically what I wanted to make sure we're doing apples and apples. Thank you, Tom.
Okay. That's all I've got.
Okay, Nancy?
Okay, on office equipment, 8504. How many computers does the library have?
We have, I knew that was coming up.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, well.
You
for
don't
the
have to be
public-
exact.
Well, for the public, we have 6 upstairs, 6, 7, 8. We have 8 upstairs, plus the 4 OPACs, which are the card catalog. In the children's room, we have 4 for the public. For the staff, we have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And currently, they're all fairly at a good speed with Windows XP.
Okay. So I see that you had 5,000 for computer equipment, 2,000 for printers. And back in 2004, you had 63. So that's a pretty good amount for computers. So I was just wondering, the amount of money, that's almost 20,000. That's a lot of money for computers. 16,000. For example, you had 5,000, right? Am I reading this correctly?
I don't think so.
The budget is 8,000, is that what you're?
Well, I'm
referring to?
separating out because you had the total. You had 8,000. then you have the 10,000 for this year. I'm sorry, was budgeted, but you came down to 8.
Yes.
Right. So you have 5,000 for computer equipment, 2,000. And I'm just wondering, you had, prior to that, 6,000. So I'm just curious, have you been upgrading your computers?
Actually, computer equipment does include other things, like we
Okay.
just replaced the UPS, which is an uninterruptible power source,
Okay,
which was about, $200. I mean, we probably, and we also, at some point, are gonna need a new server, which we're
Yes.
not going to purchase until we have to.
because you have your own.
Yes.
Yes, we
Okay.
have our
We
own
have our
server.
own.
Okay, I know that those are expensive.
So this is,
Each year, we try to replace a few items, so that it doesn't pile up. And as you can see, I mean, we're actually proposing to spend less this year.
Correct, from the previous.
what we
previous
usually do
years.
is to buy new staff ones, and then those staff ones go
Go
to
to the public.
And again, we would point out that 5,000 of that 8,000 comes out of trustee funds,
Okay.
rather than tax appropriations, so we're only asking for $3,000 in tax appropriation.
Very good. Thank you, Pat. One other question. Line item 8280, general insurance,
Yes.
property and liability insurance. That went from 8,200 to 10,300. I guess my question is, do you have your own?
We get that through the town.
That's my question. Mr.
That's the figure-
McCallie.
That's the figure he gave us.
Because I know the building and grounds is 5,400, and that includes town hall and this building we're sitting in. So that's significantly more. Just help me understand.
When we went from one insurance company to the other, we had a complete building audit
Yeah.
evaluation, and the library's valuation jumped more than what we were saying the library valuation was, so that's why.
So the library is costing us more than town hall and this building.
That's what they say when they did the valuation.
We are
Would be happy to find a way to reduce that.
All those DVDs.
I was gonna say it's on the
Well, it's-
corner of Babusick Lake Road and,
Location,
location, location, location, but,
There's other factors that involve why that jumped also, is because of what's inside it.
Yes.
Versus what's inside town
Literally.
hall,
our books.
and
Yeah,
past claims that have been put in, things of that sort all go into the rate.
Okay. And one more, I said the last time. 8353, computer services. You
Yes.
have internet access, including 2 DSL lines.
Mm-hmm.
Is it really $400 a month? Really? Have you looked into maybe getting Comcast in, or?
This is
It-
part of the GMILKs, we're a part of GMILKs, and the routing goes through MV Communications in Manchester, and all of our stuff is tied in there, and that price has not changed in a long time.
Okay, so that's,
It's $381 a month.
so if I'm understanding correctly, it's really related to
It's related to-
librarial kind of services?
Yeah, it
It's not
is.
just DSL?
No.
Okay.
Years ago, we had the option of either, creating our own software to catalog everything in the library and keep
Okay,
track
so
of the
that's
library
connected
records.
to that,
And we
okay.
elected to join the consortium of other area libraries, which was much, much cheaper.
I understand.
So there's nothing you won't find anything in here to maintain a library cataloging system. It's
Because
here
that's it.
as
Yes.
part of this consortium.
Great. Okay, those are my questions. Thank you.
Mike?
Thanks, Mr. McCray. Start off with, this is just for the library on the corner of Babusick Lake Road. This has nothing to do with any of the libraries in the schools. I just wanted to make sure, okay.
Right. That's in the school budget.
Now, postage, what exactly is it that we mail out?
Overdue notices.
So it's costing us $4,000 a year in overdue notices. And what type of fees do we charge?
We also ship materials to, for interlibrary loan and general correspondence.
Electricity. Again, that's just for that one building, and again, that is the number that I see that's before me, okay? Telephone services, Now, that was number, let's go to 8260. Now, is that just the regular, is that the phone lines just in the, I see the 4 phone numbers that's there. That 424-5021,
That's our,
that's just your basic phone.
that's correct.
And do we make long-distance calls, or I don't, I mean, we do make long-distance calls from there.
Not very often, but we do some, yeah.
Who looks into the buying for that type of program? Because as a household person, you can get unlimited calls from AT&T for not even $73 a month, with unlimited calls all over the country. And that one kind of shot out at me for $4,500 if there was any other way that we could possibly, I could see start trimming that one down.
Is
Then,
that for a commercial account, though, as opposed to a residential account?
commercial is only a couple hundred. With unlimited. That's not a fax. I see that we have different phone numbers here too.
We do.
429-0576. We're looking at almost $8,000 a year in phone calls. Is that just the people that work there that use that phone, or do we also let people that are in the library
No.
use the phone?
There's a public payphone outside that if anyone needs to make a phone call, they can go outside and put a coin in the old-fashioned phone.
The 31 people that work for the library, that is just the library again on at Babusick Lake Road. Has nothing to do with the school systems. Very good.
As you
And,
saw, we have a significant portion of part-timers, so
yes, I did notice that. And the question on miscellaneous repairs,
Yes.
that is 8321, and it's under landscaping. See, there seems like a lot of listing for repairs here, but then the highest one on that is just miscellaneous. I was a little curious.
We don't know.
You don't know?
That's,
No, it's a fund that we put together for something that happens that we haven't thought may happen. A leak in the roof, and we maybe need to replace a ceiling tile in those sorts of things. And every year, something's cropped up.
Okay. Just in case, it's a rainy day fund, basically, is what you're saying to me. The online.
I guess I would hesitate to call it a rainy day fund. I would call it, every year, there's been something that's cropped up in the building that we haven't expected. The year that
Yeah.
the ice dam in the front and it went, the walls.
Acceptable.
Okay.
I would call it a rainy day fund, because most years the roof leaks.
Okay. And then if someone could help me out with online circulation.
That's the
somebody
G-Milks
explain to-
account.
That's the one we just talked about.
That's we belong to a consortium called G-Milks. And it used to be Greater Manchester Interlibrary, they'd shortened it to G-Milks, but it is a consortium of many area libraries, Bedford, Londonderry, Amherst, Manchester.
And
And that's our fee for our internet service, that's our internet provider. But that's also through the consortium.
And what
That's
exactly
Janet.
does the
Better
average
than-
homeowner get out of the library?
Janet?
For that, if you could explain to me, I'm sorry for my ignorance.
this is our online circulation. It's every book that's checked in, checked out. It's our online catalog. We have a staff in Hooksett who actually maintain a lot of the data. We add titles so that we share them in the system. I don't know if you've used the library cards catalog. You can use it from home. You can request materials whether they're checked in or not, and we, provide. It's the basic thing that we would check in and out all of our materials and catalog them. Instead of the drawers, that's basically what this is. And our portion is based on our own circulation and our materials budget. So each library that pays into the consortium is based on our actual usage.
Okay, so that is a yearly fee too.
Yes.
Yeah, and this year, I would point out that the GMILs worked very hard to keep their budget balanced, so there's no increase, as often there is.
That is significantly less than if we had to develop and maintain a system on our own. And I think your question, Mike, as far as the average homeowner, because we are in the consortium, not only can they log on and see what books are in our library, but if the book isn't there, they know if it's in Amherst or in Bedford or Manchester.
Okay, and what's the average amount, the average number of new books that we do buy a year for the library?
Okay, actually, it's interesting, I just did the town report I turned in on Friday, and the, excuse me, but we, actually have gone down in the number of books because of discarding materials. So I don't have exactly what we've bought, but we have about a 90,000 item collection. And we, last year had, I believe it was 91, so. I could get you exactly what we've added in the
Okay.
year. It's part of a report that I do for the state, but the state hasn't asked for it yet. So I can only tell you that that's what we do have right now.
Okay.
I can tell you in there, each item, how many items we have in fiction, nonfiction.
Because I'm just looking at the dollar amount, so I'm trying to figure out,
Right.
you know, what our average price is for the books and how many we're actually,
There is no average price for the books, depending
Yeah.
upon whether it's nonfiction, whether it's audiovisual, whether it's a children's book. We tried to do that one year, and that's why we switched to budgeting by circulation in areas.
now, when people rent videos, DVDs at the library, is there a fee for that?
Only
Rent?
if they're late. It's all circulation is not, there's no charge, but if items are late, we charge fines.
Okay, so the so DVDs, if I went there to rent Superman, Spider-Man, I don't have to pay anything?
You don't rent them. You can.
Yeah, you
can
borrow them on your card.
Yeah,
We don't rent anything.
right.
I'm all set, Mr. McCray.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I got a few questions. Do we have any automatic triggers that are in effect that causes items to be purged from the library?
Automatic.
Yeah, in other words, if a book doesn't get taken out for a year or 2 years, is there a trigger that says this book obviously is not of
There
much
are
need?
criteria that are used,
Okay,
yes.
what is the criteria?
It varies with the items, actually.
Book, nonfiction book.
A nonfiction book, if it hasn't gone out, if it's out of date, if it's damaged, those are the three main things.
If a book isn't taken out of there within a year, do you,
Not discarded after a year, it would be probably 3 or 4 years.
so a book could,
It's still relevant.
so a book could sit there for 4 years, nobody could ever touch it, and it would still sit there taking up space?
Possible, but
Okay.
but there's also books that are used that never go out because people use them in the library.
Okay, so let's take my step back. Let's go to that question without reference. Let's just say regular circulated books that do leave. How would you know that it's been 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, or 4
You
years?
can get a report through Gmails, that we can do a report, which we do quite often, a report that says that we want a list of nonfiction from the 0s to the 100s that have not circulated in the last 2 years, 3 years, whatever we give for criteria. Then we take that list to the shelf and we look at the items to see if they're still of value. And then we would keep them if we found that, well, they probably are not of value, or we can replace them with something more current. We would do that.
If I wanted to know how many books hadn't been taken out in the last 2 years, how would I go about finding that
In the
information?
entire library?
Yeah, if we were to say, we need space, how many books haven't gone anywhere in 2 years, how would I go about finding that out?
You can ask me and I'll see if I can do that.
Okay, could you tell me how many books haven't left the library in the last 2 years that aren't reference books? I understand that encyclopedias aren't going anywhere. Thank you, I appreciate that.
Dave, I might mention, that's part of the ongoing management of the library. That's not something that, something new. I mean, we do that all the time, because with the current building,
Do you have those answers with you today, John?
I'm talking to the process.
No, I understand, but if you do it all the time, my question is, do you have that, instead of her going out, can you tell me how many books have been there a year?
I don't have the specifics. I was
Okay.
answering a process question.
Okay, no, and I was just saying, if there's something you do, I thought you might have bought it, that's all. Okay, next. And when do you think I could have that information?
I could probably get it by the end of the week,
That'd be great.
because it'll have to be, the criteria is going to, I don't think they could print one thing, it will slow down the system too much, it'll have to be done by departments.
Thank you very, very much. Next, when we were talking about the postage bill, where's, in other words, what causes that? What's the thing? The first answer we heard was overdue library books, and then we heard there were other items. My question is, we're using postage to let people know their books are late. Are we also sending them emails?
We don't have, are we?
Yes,
Okay.
it's not a total process yet, but there are some people who do get their notices in emails.
Okay, so would that be something that long-term we'd probably be looking at to save postage? I was just curious, in the year 2006, I didn't know if we were taking advantage of that.
We don't have emails for everybody, but your card expires every, is it 2 or 3 years? And that's an item to ask when somebody comes in, let's update your information. So we're working on that.
That's a great
process.
answer. I was just curious if we're going that way, that's all.
Yeah, get my wife, she'll save about $10 a year.
You tell us that every time.
Okay, next up,
Come in.
salaries. Tom talked very quickly on it, and if I back out the excess sick leave purchase, what I got, and I think I heard it right, was that right now, if we go to supervisory salaries, director, assistant director, head of reference, adult services, head of technical service, head of children's services, we're looking at, for the 5 supervisory positions, paying about $270,000 a year. And he used a percentage, and if I'm wrong, please correct me, that is approximately a 16% increase from the actual 2005, 2006.
No, that was the hourly, that was on the
Okay.
hourly.
So I don't have a percentage in front of me, I just know the actual 2005, 2006 was 202,000. The budget this year is 272,000, so a $70,000 increase. So I guess my first question would be, are there any added positions out of that $70,000?
No.
So those are all just increases to those positions? Okay, so the 4 positions,
4?
5 positions have an increase of $70,000 in salary from actual 2005 to budget 2007. Okay, and director makes $81,692.
May I just correct one?
You
thing?
sure
Just
can.
One, in the actual for 05, 06.
Yep.
We actually, the reason that was as low as it is we were without a children's librarian from October to May.
Okay.
So that's part of why 05.
All right, so when I asked if anything been added, we didn't necessarily add someone, but for 6 months, we didn't
We
pay
had a
that
vacancy that
position.
we couldn't fill.
Okay.
I was thinking of
Was
this
it only
year.
6? It seemed like it was 9 months, I'll tell you. It was forever. And that's part of why we started the salary survey, because we had such a hard time filling that position.
Okay, and the director, $81,692, assistant, $58,000, and then the other 3 positions in the 40s. Keith, I'll look at you because I know it's something we can do, and I certainly don't need to have you do any more work than necessary. The library is, could you get me and the council, if any of the other councils interested, I'd like to know the last 3 years, what those positions were, going back from 2003, 2004, to see how those salaries, what the escalation have been.
Sure.
So basically, I'd like to know 2003, 2004, what the salaries was, and then go from there in those 4 positions. Thank you. And could I have a job description for all the supervisory positions? Is that something you could send over to the town manager? For director, assistant director, head of technical, and head of children's services, so those 5 positions. Okay, thank you very, very much. Tom?
Actually, by now I'm all set. Thank you very much.
Okay, yes, Keith?
I have no questions, first of all, but I did want to make the council aware of a proposed cut that I had recommended and included in my budget, so make sure the council's aware of it. It wasn't something the library trustees had proposed, but it was something I had proposed, and you don't see it in the line items of the budget, because as the council, I think, is aware, we can't make line item changes in the budget. So what I've suggested is to reduce the library budget by $12,879, which is consistent with the amount of money that's been budgeted for the part-time custodian. Currently, there's a full-time and a part-time custodian for the library building. My understanding is the full-time custodian does a lot of the yard work, those types of things with the part-time custodians. Main responsibilities are for cleaning of the building. Is that fair to say, Janet, or is that I don't want to generalize it too much, but I'm just trying to give the council a sense of.
The custodian person does more than,
Oh, I'm not suggesting that.
he has actually done a lot of our maintenance.
Sure.
And so the other person in the part-time position is basically does the cleaning,
The day-to-day.
daily, you know, the bathrooms, the morning, you know, the cleaning and that sort of thing, and it works when we're not open.
Yes, she currently works 5 to 8 a.m., 6 days a week.
So my recommendation was to try to utilize some of the town buildings and grounds people to work with the full-time library custodian to do some of the work that's currently being done by just the library custodian staff, to better utilize the resources the town has. Again, that's just a suggestion. The library trustees obviously can decide to utilize their funds any way they see fit. But I just felt as though 1.5 custodians for that size building seems to be a little bit, I don't want to say excessive, but it seems like we maybe had other resources that we could utilize and spend that $12,000 on some of the items, the learning items that the library is so important in offering to the community. So I just want to make sure the council was aware of
Thank you.
that before.
Quick question on that. The numbers we have does include you wanting to close the library on Sunday, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And that's something I want to stress. That's a decision that the trustees have made,
Yes.
okay? That they feel that if they have to cut money closing the library on Sunday is a decision. There has been some confusion. People ask me, you want to close it on Sunday? I said, I really don't care what they do, as long as the money comes in right. So that's your decision. My question is, who came up with the numbers for heating and electricity? Paul?
Yep.
Okay, so
Gives a
Paul,
formula.
on those numbers then, you backed out the fact that they'll be closed on Sundays?
No, what I give them is a range or projection of what they should project using, they have to come up with those numbers, and they would have to back those out for Sunday. I do not give them a number saying $15,000. I give them, say, a range for electricity, add 5% for your electricity for an increase in your electricity cost, and then they have to come up and know their functions.
Okay, did Sunday get backed out?
No, it didn't.
Okay, Paul, could you find out what the equivalent of the energy usage on Sundays would be for me, please?
I'll try.
Thank you.
That's a hard cost to come up with because, well, you have to keep the building warm, not really hot, but same thing with air conditioning.
Well, it's just my feeling is if we're trying to cut costs, if we're gonna close a building for a Sunday, we ought to see what those costs
Take a
are.
look at it.
Certainly.
Yeah, thank you. Anybody have anything else? Thank you all very, very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, good night.
It's before 7, John.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Building and Grounds. Just to give you a heads up, when I begin the questions this time, I'll grab from that end, just so I don't catch you out of left field. I know it don't matter, I just figured I'd communicate, that's all. Excuse me.
Buildings and grounds budget really had no significant changes in it. There were a couple of things I just want to make sure the council is aware of. We did have a reduction on electrical costs by just over $8,000, and also a reduction on heating oil by about $10,000. Some of that, I believe, is because we've gone away from heating oil in the building, we've gone to It's propane and natural gas.
Natural gas.
But beyond, as far as staffing, no changes in staffing levels or anything such as that. So that's really the two major changes in the department. And Phil's here with Ed Chase, and I'm sure they'd be happy to try to answer any of the council's questions beyond that.
Okay. We'll begin with Tom. Tom?
Okay. You guys want to add anything to that, or do you want me to just start picking at it? I'm curious about, if you could just tell us the electricity, it looks like natural gas only went up about 3,000, while electricity and heating oil went down significantly, and I didn't think there was that big a difference in the BTU cost, especially with natural gas prices going up as much as they have over the past year or so. So whether it's a
Well,
budgeting
actually,
thing, or
As of July 1st, it dropped 15%, I believe.
what natural gas did?
Electricity,
Electricity. Last July 1.
Okay.
06.
Just the cost per kilowatt hour?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So that's some savings.
Correct.
But I mean, the heating oil hasn't gone down, I don't imagine.
No, the heating oil, we've replaced 2 burners in the old town hall with natural gas furnaces.
Uh-huh.
The Turner report, which the town paid $50,000 for, recommended that we do that.
And we're seeing about a $7,000 payback on that, just right off the top, which is pretty darn good.
Yeah, what I did was I converted how much oil we used to BTUs, which is 139,000 BTUs in a gallon of oil, and took the therms that would be the BTUs in therms equivalent to that, which is 100,000 BTUs per therm, and the propane was 91,600 BTUs per therm, per gallon, actually. So I made the conversion to BTUs, and what you see is based on what BTUs we had used before.
That's great. That's
That was
awesome.
the only thing that you could come up with to get some sort of comparison.
The other thing I noticed was that, and it kind of goes throughout the entire budget, vehicle fuel has been, I guess, guesstimated a lot lower than we did last year. And I can understand that to some degree, but my crystal ball is still very fuzzy as to where we're going. So what are we using for vehicle fuel, and relative to what did we use before, I guess?
We use the rates that Paul gave us this year, and last year they were substantially higher. What we try to do, and you'll hear this when we talk about higher margins, is we try to go back and look at gallons and usage, and base it on some gallons, as well as what we receive for the projected price from finance.
What I do is I go out to some of our suppliers, and I ask them, give me your estimate. You see what the futures are going. You have your hands in the pot, so to speak, on the estimates. And we were talking, and they really were saying that, to be honest with you, when I told them about $2.65 a gallon going out for 2007, 2008, the gentleman said that's a very good estimate. It might be higher, it might be lower, but what he sees trends pulling, it's not going to be as high as what we did budget was $3.15 this year. After all the hurricanes and things of that sort, the price really skyrocketed when we were doing the budget. So he says about $2.65 for 2007, 2008 should be a good number. And he's been doing it for 30 or 40 years, so.
Okay. And 265 is where we started at last year, wasn't it? So, and then we bumped it up because we wanted to be sure, because we were all paying $3 plus a gallon at the time. Okay. There was a huge number in here for building 8502. Which, the number has no backup on it. I was wondering if you could tell me what we were hoping to do, and now we've dropped it back to $800 from $64,800.
In the original department request, we had some money in there for the Kent building, which was consistent with the CIP program and budget. We were looking to do something either to the Kent building or potentially here at the town hall to provide better office space. We also had town clerk's office carpeting, police department carpeting. Again, the Kent building modifications, some town hall generator fencing and some old town hall heat adjustment. In the original department request was $64,795, but again, it included some of those CIP items.
So, okay, so you're not asking for the town hall stair treads this year? That was last year's budget? That's on here?
That was in last year's, current year budget,
Right,
still in
This year's
the
budget.
current year budget.
okay. So do we have enough to do that job, or?
No, unless we find it somewhere else. We've had, we talk about Phil's 502 account every year, and I haven't been to assessing, but if you think about the number of buildings that Phil's responsible for, the town hall, new town hall, old town hall, police station, adult community center, the Kent building, it's probably, I don't know, $3 to $5 million worth of property, and we certainly could look that up in assessing. And the 502 account is really the only account that Phil has to provide for any failures. We don't have a rainy day fund. You folks talked about rainy day funds a few minutes ago. Throughout the course of the year, there are failures in buildings that occur, whether it's leaks in the roofs or failures of furnaces, or what we found this year were some failures of the chimney over at the adult community center, as well as some what else did we have over there? Yeah.
Well, we had to replace the burners.
We were putting burners and, things come up. We have periodic problems with the sprinkler system in the new town hall. And when those expenditures come up, we have to try to find the money somewhere else in the public works budget. But the 502 account would be the natural where you would fund some of these.
See, we have no revenues, but we get $30,000 from the court. And we make all the repairs, the painting, the carpeting and everything, but the money never goes to my budget where it should be going. It goes to general government.
Which is part of your budget, which where your budget is part of, so it absolutely does go there. Absolutely does.
I hear what you're saying.
I do too, I think that's a little misleading.
Okay. So we, as far as maintenance of these buildings, we have $800 budgeted.
That's it.
Excuse me? Yes?
That's not maintenance. That is
It's been used to do repairs and.
repairs.
It's a repair account.
What's the difference in
Actually-
maintenance and repairs?
These are a dollar value for some of your repairs. It's all based on, anything over $1,000 would be run through the 502 account. Anything other would be run through a maintenance account. So it's
Anything over how much?
1,000, that's
So we
current.
have $800 in there.
Well, that's, at the time.
Seemed like the right number.
We do have a 321 account.
Right, I was just-
That's also maintenance of the buildings too. So it's just not maintenance that comes to this 502, it's that capital improvements, I was searching for the word. It's for capital improvements, things that you would capitalize should be run through this account, the A502.
502.
Right.
Okay. So our general maintenance is like $800.
Right.
Everything else is itemized out as I guess expenses. Pest control is 800 and things of that nature.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I basically just want to focus my questions about energy.
Sure.
Okay. Phil, you've been part of the Energy Policy Committee per se, and just by your regular duties, you're the guy that deals with the gas companies, electric companies. per se, so I have a few questions for starters. We have some ideas which you're involved with on the energy policy as far as reduction of thermostats in the evening, during the day, whatever, that can't help but save some type of monies. And we also, you've done a little talk about, you've had people coming in, I believe it was PSNH.
I got that right here.
And
Yeah, that.
they've come up with ideas. I guess the question is, do these numbers you put in, do they take into effect, if the energy policy is implemented, the savings that we could have?
Well, what we have is what it's gonna cost us to do it, yes, and what the savings would be. Are you
Okay.
talking specifically about the Smart Start program, or?
No, I'm talking about this part about lowering the thermostats to 62 degrees or keeping it at 80 degrees. That part of the equation that we've been talking about as part of the energy policy, which I know has not been approved, but I'm just,
That's why it's not in here, 'cause
Okay.
it hasn't been approved.
could you give me a number of what the savings would be approximately if that policy is approved in its current form? I know it's a ballpark, but I'm just saying if I waited for the exact number, I wouldn't get it. But a ballpark, if we were to go through with that, I'd like to get a feel for what the savings would be if that's implemented.
When would you like that figure?
Before we vote on the 20, before we have to vote. I'd like the sooner the better. It's like anything, but I know it takes time to get there. But it certainly is an incentive, and the number may be good, it may be a nothing number. And if it's a nothing number, then we all have to say, is going through all this work for the policy, because there is a lot of things. I mean, what's the benefit? So I think this would be a great chance to see the benefit if we implement it. Okay, next.
Mr. McCray, Dave.
Oh, yeah,
excuse me.
I'm sorry.
On that line, okay, dollar savings is one thing, the reduction in energy use is another. And that would be more, for me anyway, it would be a more telling number than the dollar amount, because the dollar amount's gonna fluctuate with the cost of the fuel, which we don't always have control over. But it's the actual kilowatt hours, therms for gas or gallons for fuel oil, that would have more impact or give us a better idea of what we might be saving out of that, rather than, there will be a dollar amount associated with that, but that's gonna fluctuate depending on the commodity price for that.
Okay, so what you're asking for, I think one exact page, I just want to make sure I ask it properly, is what you guys will bring back to us would be the savings if everything stayed the same on the pricing wise. In other words, you have a particular price you've used to figure out the cost of things. So one would be the savings if they stayed the same, and at the same time, hopefully same page, same spreadsheet, what the energy, whether it be kilowatt hours or whatever you're using would be. So we'd have two. And then we could use that number to go other ways. So one is the cost of everything stays the same, and the other is the actual usage and measurements.
And that's related to the lowering of the thermostats, that's.
To the policy in whole. Right, to the policy as it reads today. And that doesn't, the part about fuel and cars, there's nothing in that right now. That is completely blank. So it really gets down to some very definitive changes that are in there on temperature of the buildings when not in use, and computer usage and certain things. Okay, next is, everything's a ballpark, and that's all I can ask for. But if the courthouse is not here next fiscal year, and nothing else is in here during the day, for air conditioning, heating, whatever, in other words, we're not using anything, this room is dormant, I'd like to know what the savings would be in energy costs there. And I know it means we're not getting revenue, but right now I'm talking about costs, so what, and again, that's good for us to know as the lease is coming up for negotiation. It's just good info for us to have. Okay. And if you could just spend a couple of minutes, Phil, on, I know you've done a lot of work on some of the changes, and part of it involves return on investment, where you're going to have to spend some money to save some money. And I want to stress what Phil is about to talk about now has nothing to do with the energy policy. This has to do with speaking to PSNH on ways we could save some money.
What we did was we had Public Service Company in New Hampshire do an energy audit through their Smart Start program, where they come out and evaluate electricity usage that we use and ways of improving it, and that is through putting new fixtures in, retrofitting existing fixtures, going from T15 lamps to T8 lamps, and going to electronic ballasts. Did you give a copy to everybody of the thing I gave you?
We don't have any copies on that, no. Thanks, Phil.
Phil, you're still stuck, Phil. You're still stuck, Phil. Don't worry about it, we'll share.
Applaud that.
What'd you say? Hopefully that was yours?
It's the camera. I'd like
You're
to
beautiful.
get rid of. Not so much the mic, but the camera.
So what you have is the project cost, there's the police department, the town hall, Department of Public Works, Kent Building. You have the project cost, the PSNH rebate, the Smart Start rebate reduction of 10%, the Smart Start rebate after the Smart Start rebate reduction of 10%, the net project cost, and the Smart Start program charge of 5%. You have the estimated annual bill savings of each department, police department, town hall, and public works. The estimated monthly bill savings and 75% of estimated monthly bill savings. And there's two ways of paying it. Option one, using 75% of savings per month, and option two, using 100% of savings per month.
Paying what?
I mean,
Two ways of paying what?
for the share of the program.
I guess I lost something in there. I don't even understand what you're talking about. You
No.
showed me some numbers
The
and
project cost is $11,634. The rebate is $58.17. So.
Could I jump in, Phil?
Yeah.
Because I think what we're looking for, and the reason I didn't ask is I've been privy to hearing as part of the energy policy, I think is, we really haven't heard from here what the project is. In other words, we heard about what would they come in and do for this cost? What would, yeah, that's it. What would they come in and do that would save?
Change some of the existing light fixtures. They'd retrofit some of the existing light fixtures, like the courtroom. They'd go from T12 to T8 bulbs, and they'd put electronic ballasts in and get rid of the regular ballasts we have there.
what net effect does that have? Reduced lighting? Same number of lumens, just lower cost, or?
You'd have, the bulbs themselves are warranted for 16,000 hours. And the ballasts are warranted for 5 years. Their projected life is 15 years. There's a 1-year on-site warranty for the bulbs and the ballasts, and then afterwards a 5-year warranty through Sylvania for the ballasts.
This is basically a lighting conversion project. It's similar, it'd be similar to buying those little fluorescent devices, LFDs, that you, electric companies, public service, New Hampshire Co-op, all those guys sell those, that you put in your house, and a 40-watt small fluorescent bulb is equivalent to a 70, 75-watt incandescent. So there's net savings in the kilowatts used. Public service has a program where they'll come in and they provide a consultant to do an energy audit, and they've done that. They did the Kent building and the town hall buildings, put together this cost assessment, and what it does is there's some net savings to the town in terms of kilowatts used. But basically, as I understand the program, and I haven't seen any written contracts recently on it, but as I understand the program, you still pay a similar amount on your electric bill, and you have, say, a 3-year return on investment. So at the end of that period, you have fixtures that have a longer life, and on the long term, the town would save kilowatt, in terms of kilowatt hours used. But it takes a little while to pay off the conversion cost to public service.
I'd like to jump in here only because like you said, you were talking generic ballpark. Phil, on this, correct me if I'm wrong, they had said that the payback was about 2 years, and not, well, it was 3 on this? Okay, thank you. Okay, is there any other parts to the project besides what you just hit on?
They would be replacing the exit lights with LED lights and, any incandescent bulbs or fluorescent bulbs.
And again, the people at home don't have the benefit of the sheet that you gave us. This includes the buildings listed here as Police Department, Town Hall, and Department of Public Works. The buildings that are listed, okay? Okay, Mike, you had a question?
Yeah, I did. This is a project that you would like to implement. Is that correct? That's not in this budget right now.
Right.
That's correct.
Okay, I think that's where, I don't know, I shouldn't really speak for Tom, but was my confusion. So this isn't in here. This is something that you're asking us if we should start to implement. Did you want to were you looking to put this in this budget, or is this for later on down the line?
If I could answer that. I mean, just, what we're doing is, as Keith had said in his cover letter when he sent it to us, he was here for a month, he put it together, he got it to us, he did a great job, we all said last meeting. Stuff like this is something that we're looking for input. I mean, our goal every day is to save money, so this stuff kind of came up after Keith had already put this together, and there may be some tweaking to the budget numbers, which may involve it being a little bit more per se in order to get the ROI off for a couple of years, and I believe that's what we're speaking about. Am I correct, Keith?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so, yeah,
Thank
so this would result in a little bit more of a cost this year and next and the year after, I guess, in order to get a larger payback in the end.
Thanks.
I guess that's where I get a little lost. Does this in fact cost us money out of pocket to implement, or is this something that they effectively finance over your savings for the first 3 years?
Yeah.
So you pay the same amount of electric charges for 3
Correct.
years at the end of that?
Basically, what you're doing is paying for the improvements with the savings you're making with the improvements that you have made.
So this isn't a budget item at all? in my
Yeah, it is.
opinion.
It is, Tom.
Monthly basis.
It is. You admit, this is, if I can help, the part this is the difference. You're paying for it with the savings that you've made. So in reality, is the budget item going to be more if we go with it?
No.
So everything's the same.
Right.
So then I go back to Tom then. So what is the difference? I apologize. What is the difference then?
The difference for the difference until you've replaced or repaid the upfront costs, there is no difference. But in 3 years and beyond, you'll start seeing a budgeted savings because you're not reimbursing the town of the public service company for the initial investment they made for us. So for
Then
the
I'm
first,
going to ask the question that all 6 of us are thinking of. So there's no decision for us to make, right? This is a no-brainer.
This is a no-brainer.
Oh, okay, then that's the part that I missed. I thought at the beginning, we were going to be, even though we were saving it, the amount we were saving was allowing us to buy more things. Okay. Is that where we're all at, Tom? That's certainly the point you
I
were
think
hitting
that's
us
where
over the
I'm at,
head
yeah.
with, yeah. There's no decision to make.
What it comes down to is after 3 years, you are gonna be saving 28, 30, right around about $4,200 a year.
So we're going to do this.
yeah, I would think that we would want to do something like that.
I mean, is there a negative?
No.
Not doing it.
Great.
Good answer.
I like when it's easy. Nice job, Phil, I want to say. We're saying like it's easy. You did all the work, got the people in, and you made this happen. Lord knows, we were still waiting for the people to come in with my phone calls. We wouldn't even have had the last 3 minutes of talk. All right, so what I'm getting out of this, and then we're going to continue moving with the questions, is this is a no-brainer. In the budget, you're really not showing any savings anyway, so the budget part of it isn't affected.
Right.
But the fact that we're gonna do it, you're just gonna do it. So again, it goes without saying, but it won't save us any money this year, next year, or the following year per se.
Once you approve it, they'll send us contracts for you to sign, and then it will be done through Rise Engineering. They will be sending in licensed electricians to do the work.
Okay, when we say once we approve it, is there anything that we have to do, Keith, as a council? or
I don't
is
think
this-
so, no. The only thing that I would want to make sure the council's aware of is if you look about 2/3 of the way down under payment option, payment info, you choose option 1 or option 2. You've got two criteria, using 75% of the savings or 100% of the savings, and it identifies there the number of months it's going to take for each building to get a payback. So for example, the police department, if you use 75% of the savings, it's going to take 3 years to repay back. If you use 100% of the savings, it's going to take just over 2. But as you work, the town hall, for example, goes from 73 months to 55 months. So I just want to make sure everybody's on the same page. When 3 years from now, if the 6 of you are still sitting here saying, where's my $4,300 in savings a year? You're not going to see $4,300 in savings probably after the second or third year. You're going to start seeing savings as these projects are paid off. The police department, because they need to do less improvements or fewer improvements in there, the amount of money they're going to be spending and the rebate that we're going to be getting is substantially less, and the amount of money we're going to be saving is substantially more than the town hall and the Kent building on a monthly basis. So that's, therefore, it's going to take a little bit longer to recoup the initial investment the public service is going to be making. So I just, again, we're talking 2-3 years, and we're
I was gonna
right.
say 3 years, though, in reality, I mean, if you go back here and pull out your calculator, I think the 3 years were kinda, it doesn't look like 3 years to me. I mean, the police department is almost 3 years,
Yes.
but when you go to the other two, even going with 100%, you're looking at 55 and 94, so I mean,
4.5 years, and almost like 8 years.
yeah, so,
Make sure that everybody understands that. I mean, it still makes sense to do. I'm not suggesting we should not do this.
well, I'm glad we talked, because I'm saying the 3 years we said really isn't accurate.
Right. But the return on there's gonna be a little bit longer return on investment on some of the other buildings rather than the police department.
So,
You're aware.
in reality, again, just to beat this to death, but so that we have the facts, is the payback will last as long as the warranty, per se, we're talking but in reality, we're looking at like a 15-year life on these items, so.
Right.
Warranty-wise, we'll be all set, and then we should get another 10 years after that, give or take, and in some cases, you know, it's like magic, you may get 20, 30, who's to say, but 15 is the thing.
Yeah, the bulbs that I use are good for like 6 years.
Okay. Keith, would it be your opinion that you'd be going with the 100% is the way you would handle it?
I'm not sure why you wouldn't. To be honest with you, there's no cost to the community. We'll get the payback quicker, and we just move forward and go with that. So my suggestion would be to use 100% of the savings and pay off the initial investment and be done with it as soon as possible.
I mean, I personally would agree. I mean, just using the Department of Public Works, you'd be looking at 10 years if you didn't, not that, I mean, yeah. Is the council kind of in consensus that a year seems to make, I mean, doing it 100% and getting it done quicker than later? Okay. All right, again, Phil, I want to thank you for all the work you've done, and I think as we move forward with the energy policy, this Thursday, people will see even more that you've been doing for us, so thank you. Again, what I have coming to me before I go to Mr. Malzone is, as soon as we can, the council will be getting what the savings will be to the budget in dollar-wise and in usage if we implement the policy as it stands right now. And I will also be getting, the council will be getting savings if the court goes away beginning July 1st, what the savings on energy would be there too.
You want dollar figure or percentage on that?
I want dollar figure on that, and we can also use the same things, use the usage too, as Tom said. I would make them consistent. So have kilowatt hours and whatever you use to measure other gas and the heat and that. So have it in dollars and in usage numbers, so it can be translated.
Just remember, it will be ballpark.
That's all I can ask.
I understand that.
Okay, thank you. Mike?
Yes, thank you. I notice on your electrical and your oil and your telephone have all come down. That is correct. You've brought all those numbers down. We went from 63,000 to 55,000. Now, that electricity, is that actually for 5 buildings?
It's for the buildings list.
Temple, Garage, Police Station, Bandstand, Fraser Square. Yeah, well, it's not.
So that is correct.
The bandstand is in a building, it's.
Right. But you had the town hall, you had the annex, you had the police station, the Kent building. I'm just trying to make these numbers work because I'm looking at 55,000 and we're looking at 20,000 for the library, which was one building. So wanted to make sure that we're really talking 55,000 for that many buildings.
Yeah. That is correct.
Good job, guys.
And this, as Phil said, this reflects the reduction in the public service rate structure. So that's what, if you look back a couple of years,
Didn't the library get that too, though?
Yes.
I suspect they did, but if you look back a couple of years, the actual was 63,766, so.
But you still brought it down, good job. And
Thermostats we put down to 68 at night, 65 on the weekends.
yeah, it's very noticeable here on the utilities that you've stayed up on what you said you were going to do, and I appreciate that work that you have done, Phil. The other one was in 8321, and it says maintenance buildings. And we dropped that down a couple of grand, but my only question was the janitorial supplies, electrical and plumbing supplies, ice melt and hand boots. Is that, hand tools, that's to all the buildings that were listed?
Yes.
I think that's all that I had. I appreciate dropping the utility numbers down, because obviously you must have paid a lot of attention to that to get that to work. I appreciate that.
Can I just add one thing while you're under that
Certainly.
321 account? You'll notice the oil burner cleaning and repair has dropped from 1,000 to 400. That's because we've
Went to gas.
taken out, with the exception of an oil furnace that remains at PD. So we needed to keep some money in there.
Okay.
Yeah,
Full.
I'm all set. Thank
Hey,
you.
then I got a question for Keith. Keith, could you do me a favor, if possible? Could you check with the library and find out if they have had anyone come in and do any type of audit with PSNH and gone through the same type of thing to Phil? Phil, it's fair to say that when you do this, you're worried about our buildings, not the library, because that's dealt with. Yeah,
Whatever's in my realm, that's what I
not,
take care of.
just double checking. Yeah, if we could find that out, it'd be interesting, because if it hasn't been the case, then maybe there's a savings if they were to bring them in. Thank you, Keith. Sure. Nancy?
I just want to be able to verify the personnel. Are all the positions that are listed here presently filled? Is there any vacancies?
No.
There are none.
No vacancies, and we're not aware of any retirees
Thank you.
in the next 2 years. Nobody has announced anything, so.
And I neglected to ask the library that. Is there any way of getting?
We'll get that, sure.
That
Yeah,
answer.
We're actually putting all that information together for all the departments.
Terrific, thank you. That's all.
Tom? Tom, I just
Yep.
want to say that's a beautiful shirt you're wearing this evening.
Thank you. I like it too. I guess this is, it's not necessarily pointed at you, Phil, but what I'm looking at here is I'm looking at gasoline expenses in here. Does this include any reduction in any taxes that we pay, that we do not pay as a municipality? Is that factored into this price?
Yes.
Okay. So if it wasn't factored in, we'd be paying close to $3 at the gallon. You'd be estimating $3 a gallon for 18 months out. Is that right, Paul?
Yeah, it's roughly around 40, 50 cents a gallon
Yeah,
in taxes.
okay. The 8105 overtime supervisory. What's that used for?
That's used for a number of things. During the day, when there is a failure of the sprinkler system or furnaces or any electrical problems, Phil often gets called in to address those. He also is involved with the winter maintenance for all of these buildings, the cleaning of the walkways and plowing of the town hall and police station and including the MYA building. So there's some plowing, there's some response to, building emergencies. There's times when Phil has to come in and meet with contractors or stay late as contractors are finishing something up. So it's a variety of tasks.
So he's an hourly employee?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yes.
Because I've noticed that on a bunch of the budgets in here, that there's supervisory overtime, and under the Fair Labor Standards Act, there's a supervisory exemption for overtime for people who supervise 2 full-time equivalents and earn $415 a week, in which case you would not have to be be required to pay them overtime. And there's a lot of that that's in, there's a bunch of other places. I think some of it's contractual, but it's just a general item or issue, whatever you want, that I'm bringing up here, and that they have not been treated as supervisory personnel within the exemptions provided in the Fair Labor Standards Act under the Federal Wage and Hour Law.
So as a supervisor, does that make me exempt?
You could be considered exempt because you have 2 full-time equivalent employees that you supervise, and you earn more than $415 a week.
That's interesting, because I was just written up for violating the Fair Standards Labors Act for volunteering my time.
Well, that's the other problem, too, okay? You gotta be careful with that.
That is interesting.
But that does happen.
No, I know.
I just, the oversight that employers have to have, or they have to exercise in these matters, okay, causes those kinds of problems, okay? Because if you're considered an hourly employee and you're coming in here and doing similar work, you should be compensated for it at time and a half, whether you want to be compensated for it or not. Both the federal and the state government, state labor departments say that you need to be compensated for those times. So, I don't know what the circumstances were for the issue on the volunteering of time, but it's something that a lot of communities don't pay attention to, and they get into that bind.
So being a supervisor would not make that legal?
Being a salaried employee.
Right, you would be an exempt employee. There's a semantic difference. There's only 2 types of employees under the Fair Labor Standards Act, exempt and non-exempt. Okay? Salary just means you get paid a fixed amount, no matter how much work you do in a pay period. Okay? But for the federal standard, it's exempt or non-exempt. Now, can an employer do something different? Yes. As long as they're treated consistently throughout, then then if you want to consider them to be an hourly employee and pay them the overtime, that's your discretion. And that's the only thing I got.
Okay, anybody have anything else? All right, thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you, good night.
Welcome.
You think a week is a reasonable?
The Parks Recreation budget, there are really 2 major changes that we proposed for the 2007-2008 budget. The 06,
Hold on one second,
Sorry.
Keith. No,
Sure.
you don't have to be. I just noticed Tom walking in, so. With that being said. Well said,
The
thank you.
2006, 2007 budget was $653,000 for Parks and Recreation. What I've recommended for 2007 and 8 is $632,000, or a reduction of about $30,000. And that really comes in one major area. What I proposed, at least initially, was to look at trying to hire a Parks and Recreation director on more of a seasonal, part-time basis, meaning that you'd have a Parks and Recreation director working 40 hours plus in the spring, summer, and probably into the early fall, and then as the programs and the park program slows down a bit, potentially looking at having that person work on more of a part-time basis. And again, those applications are out now. It's just a thought to potentially save money and open up the options for potential candidates, both full and part-time, to see if there's any interest at all in a larger group of people, potentially to choose from to better fit the next Parks and Recreation director. So that's really the major change from 6-7 to 2007 and 8. The other one cut that I did make to the department budget, the significant cuts that I guess I made to the department budget, were under the buildings. We had, there was proposed to have a number of different buildings worked on down at Wasserman Park. Again, in the spirit of trying to balance the budget, we chose to postpone those for a year, with the only capital improvement being making the restrooms at the MYA building ADA compliant at the estimated cost of about $10,000. Other than that, the budget basically is pretty much the same as it is in 6-7. Bruce Morrow's here, acting Parks and Recreation Director, and if I'm sure he'd be happy to answer any questions the council would have, but I can't, which I know are many.
Okay.
Hopefully I can.
All right, we'll begin with Tom.
Can I jump in real quick before you start?
Yeah, sure.
One other because there are a number of MYA members in the audience, and I had an opportunity to meet with some of the board, and we've spoken. What I suggested as far as the MYA budget goes, because we're trying to level fund everything else, I level funded the MYA appropriation from the 06-07 to the 07-08. So there was a cut there of about $5,000 in this particular budget. And my rationale for cutting that $5,000 was nothing more than just keeping that level funded, just like we've level funded everything else in the budget. I apologize.
Thank you, Keith. Yes, Tom?
Okay, 8111, overtime, other, got skateboard park in here. Normally, when would you pay overtime at the skateboard park?
Skateboard park is open seven days a week. Inclement weather, actually, the short time that I've been overseeing that, did not get into overtime because of any day that there's inclement weather. You actually knock down the hours and keep it under 40. If it's all 7 days was met, again, I got there in September, and I've never seen the overtime situation that I recall. If all 7 days were nice and it's still a summertime situation, then there's a potential for getting into over 40 hours.
When would it get into over 40 hours? Because it would be open longer?
It'd be actually open every day. It does not open at any time that it's raining, and it's only open in daylight. I'm forgetting some of the hours, Tom. But there's a potential on terrific weather, I guess, for lack of a better way to say it, that they could get into the extra hour situation.
I'd like to ask a clarification
because-
question, if I may.
Well, I was going to say, you're budgeting for essentially 10 months of operation at 40 hours a week. 1,710 hours, 22,080 hours a year. That's about 82%, so 10/12, it's 5/6, 83 point some odd percent, so you're basically budgeting for 10 months out of the year for that to operate. Is it open 10 months?
Yeah, spring, yeah, spring to fall.
Paul?
That budget line also includes the lifeguards down at the Natticook Lake.
Skateboard park under
Oh,
part-time
sorry.
wages, 8107? I know this one does.
Okay, sorry.
I know the overtime one does, but I'm going up here and I'm taking a look, you're paying overtime, but you're budgeting for 10 months out of the year and it's not open more than 6.
We can, let us take a second look at the skateboard park costs and see if that number can't be refined a bit.
And can you let us know what the hours are?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
If it's sunny, and who decides whether or not it closes?
The attendant,
Okay.
we don't even want him to show up if it's not even a good day. And again, that's Saturday and Sunday as well, so he has that discretion, whatever makes it safe.
I'm all set, that answers me. Tom?
Okay. And now my perennial pet peeve.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. O'Gara Drive tennis courts. Electricity, 8241. The number of times I've driven by there at night when the lights have been on, and you would see you would have to conduct a virtual tennis game to see anybody playing out there.
Are those on a timer, Bruce?
No.
Once they go
No,
on
when
that-
they put them in, I screamed about putting a timer out there. They are? Because I've driven by at 9 o'clock and they've been on.
What time
What time do they cut out, 10?
Well, the timer has to be reset periodically.
If Ernie, excuse me, if Ernie's going to be part of this, could we have Ernie up front at the microphone, please?
Sure.
Ernie's the park maintenance foreman, so this is his bailiwick.
Beautiful.
Yeah, we've been setting the timers on both the skating rink and the basketball courts. And I'd have to look up to see when they're supposed to go off, like whether it's at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock. The timers come on at some time approximating when it becomes dusk.
Right.
And then runs to a set time. In the spring, that's longer. In the middle of the summer, obviously, that's shorter, and then in the fall, it's longer again, until the nets come down. At which point they're turned off, and until the ice rink opens, there are no lights there.
Okay.
Tom, before we go past that, Finley had his hand up.
If you're gonna leave that, the tennis courts, did you have anything else on the tennis courts?
Well, I had suggested when they put these in, because the money was available through a grant, okay, that they use a token box or something, a token thing where you plug a token into it, so the people are going to use it, they turn the lights on, they drop a token into the thing, and the lights go on for a period of time.
I think the cost associated with this, I'll back up to when MYA Fields at Bice Field was lighted. Mike Hausman had to come back with an amended budget item because it costs about $500 for the demand charge. If you fired them up once before 8 in the evening, you are assessed a demand charge because they have to be able to provide you with that amount of electricity if you turn them on ever again during that month. And so I think, so he came back to add, like $6,000 to the budget at that point, or $3,000, I think it was, for half the year. But I suspect that most of this is that demand charge, although I don't know for sure, because we may have arrangements since that point in time, but that, it's a major impact. The demand charge is a major impact on an electric bill. So if that's separated from, any other facility, by itself, it would be a big expense. If you had put them on once, for I think it's a 15-minute period.
Thank you, Finley.
Okay, well, that explains some of it, but it's not nearly as many lights as they have over at the ball field.
It may not be. I'm just suggesting that that's a.
Could someone give us a definitive answer on that, if that is part of that? Thank you. Tom, you're up.
I'm all set, thank you.
Nancy?
I had a question about timers too, so we'll just wait on that. Okay, on line item, Adult Community Center, 8377. On page 6, coordinator, subcontract, what is that?
Paul, that's part of the adult community center's budget.
We'll have to get back to you on that one.
Okay, thank you.
Just to let you know, my understanding on the adult community center, the Parks and Rec budget is just a placeholder for that. It's an agreement that we have with the,
Happens to be in
Center.
your,
they didn't know where to put it. I think they put it in Parks and Rec.
okay, that's all the questions right now.
Mike?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Okay, I see Parks and Recreation Director, 1,400 hours. So we're cutting that back. That's a proposal to cut that back from a full-time position to a part-time position.
Yes.
The maintenance supervisor. Could someone explain that job description to me?
I haven't seen the job description. That's the full-time maintenance person for out at Wasserman Park. He not only takes care of the facility, he makes sure the buildings are ready for, well, takes care of the facility for rentals and functions. He's the person that the day camp people turn to when there's problems either in the cabins or some of the facilities. He's the one that takes care of the grounds out there, does the plowing in the wintertime.
What's he doing now?
He's doing just general maintenance that he doesn't do otherwise. I don't know
Oh, he's like
exactly.
a caretaker?
He's like a caretaker. Does facility improvements that he can't do otherwise.
Does he drive a
he just-
snowplow?
Pardon me?
Does he drive a snowplow when it's snowing?
Yes,
Okay, good.
yes.
Mike?
And that's with a Parks truck, Dave, not one of the highway trucks. With a Parks truck.
Thank you.
Cabins under 8321. And that is cabins in other facilities. And is that a yearly cost, or is that a one-time? Or is it basically costing $12,000 to maintain the cabins and the other facilities up there?
That's the entire facility. That's his major expense account, whether it's boards, whether it's electrical repairs. I thought that was a rather low number. I had the first thing I did when I was put up there back in September, there was some ash trees that needed coming down, and that's the only account that you could even have trees cut down out of. So it's, whether it's gravel for the parking lots, whether it's boards or buildings, we just painted the function hall. That's an all-encompassing expense account for operations, keep the facility up.
Okay. So that is yearly, basically, and you think that's low. The bandstand under 8374, and that cost for $10,100, is that what we pay to the bands and to have police detail there?
It's for the groups that come for the events. I'm not sure if it's for police detail. I've never gone through that cycle, Mike. I can find out if that takes care of a police detail.
Sure, and do you know off the top of your head, how many weeks we do that for?
Something's telling me it's about every 3 weeks that there's a function?
Someone in the back.
Almost every week.
So for the summertime,
You're saying 10 weeks?
10 weeks? Thank you, and the coordinated subcontract, we already got to. And under 8502, the skating rink, paved and curbed at Wasserman Park.
That was something that was deleted.
Okay.
The thought there was the skating rink behind the skateboard park and the tennis court. It's pretty much of a maintenance item, just one of my thoughts out at the facility, talking to the maintenance supervisor. We had a swimming pool out there that was a pretty level area. If we could get some asphalt in there, might make it an all-purpose area, shuffleboard, picnic tables in the summertime, and ice skating area in the wintertime. This was not the year for that.
Yeah.
Maybe next year.
And then as far as the sports are concerned, on a percentage basis between Babe Ruth, youth, baseball, basketball,
Mike?
football, lacrosse, yes?
Yeah, I am gonna be bringing the MYA up here after they're there to
Okay,
quickly to hit anything specific to their areas,
Then-
just so you're aware.
I'll hold off then.
That'd be in the
Mr. Chairman, I'm all
371
set.
account. MYA.
I'm all set.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. The only thing I really have at this time, Keith, is I'm still not sure I completely got my grasp on the whole, I understand what you're doing, it's simple enough. If whether or not we're gonna be able to get a quality person that's gonna be able to work those hours each year, because basically we're saying 5 or 6 months and then see you later. So, it's kind of, so you must have a feel that you think
Well,
that
I
type
think-
of niche person may be out there.
Yeah, I guess there's a possibility of having that person out there, somebody who's willing to work full-time at certain times of the year, summertime, spring, summer, fall.
Because they'll make a decent salary for when they work.
Right. And
I
then-
mean, and they'll make nothing when they don't.
Yeah, that's right, and then in the wintertime, there's still events going on, but certainly not anywhere near the need for a full-time person.
Okay.
That's the thought process behind it.
This is, the only other question I have at this time is so I don't go banging my head tonight. Ernie, are you the maintenance supervisor?
No, I'm the park.
I gotta meet this guy. So we have a maintenance supervisor that's making 46,000 and he keeps himself up at Wasserman.
That's correct.
Okay. I mean, does a nice job. Always looks nice up there. All right, Tom. Finley, do you have a question?
Yeah.
Well, I was moving to Tom's turn in the circle, but if you had a
I didn't
question.
know we were doing a circle thing, sorry about that. I do have a question. I was just wondering if there were any benefits associated with the part-time director's position?
As far as health insurance, retirement, no.
Nothing, okay.
I just wanted to ask briefly on the 8502 account. I guess I can understand cutting the skating rink at this point, just because it's an addition, we already have. The other issues and concerns in there are those structural problems that we're gonna get into trouble if we just ignore those for another year, or? Somebody obviously thought they needed to be done, I understand.
The maintenance supervisor brought to my attention on cabin 7-8, the roof. Just appears, he sees it on a yearly basis, looks like it's weakening more and more. Hasn't come down to a V yet, but, you know, it's I think it's a 75-foot building. And he just worries about snow load and whether or not, you know, some heavy snowstorm that we have, that if we were in Denver, what it would look like. So get it before it caves in. The other is the old Wasserman House. It's a number of rooms in that facility. There is one room that's secured off because the floorboards are all rotted and it's ready to cave in. And I put that in the budget. I just thought that was something that if we have a facility, it ought to be solid. But we'll just keep it locked up for another year.
But we're not using it right now.
We're not using it now. The reason that room is locked off, we do use it at day camp. It's pretty much the drop-off and reception area for the day camp period of time, 2 months of summer. So right now, it's not a used building today.
But in its current condition, it's not gonna be a used building, or it can be used in its current?
It still can be, just blocking off that one room.
Oh, okay.
There's a physical padlock on that door. There's no mistake going into that room.
Okay. And electrical wiring upgrades?
That was down at the dining hall. It was all exposed wire. And it's not at the recommendation of the fire department or anything saying things are deficient. It's the exposed fibrous type wiring down there that, there's still fuse boxes down there and ungrounded circuits. It's just something that should be invested in. And I'm not even sure that the $10,000 that I had there would do it, but it would be a starting point in the dining hall.
Did the Turner report on that issue?
I would have to look into that, Tom. I deliberately did not look at the Turner report to try and address it. It seemed like everything that was in there, at a glance that I had when I was at Highway, actually. Just something, this is not the year to address things that were in the Turner report. But I can,
Yeah, but I mean, if the fire department's not insisting on it and the Turner report overlooked it, I guess I have to question, how urgent the need is to do that. And apparently the town manager and you in conjunction have decided that it wasn't that urgent. And
it was, I looked at it as if it was mine. If it was my house and I had exposed wiring like that, I'd like to look for the opportunity to do something with it. And that's why it's there. It's that first thing that we cut out of there. When Keith says, Bruce, something's gotta go, that was the first thing that went.
Okay, thank you. And the adult community center, the town manager cut $5,000 out of their request, or?
Good number, Tom.
Just,
Bottom of page 5.
that was, and again, the rationale was nothing more than just trying to balance or level fund the budget for that specific purpose, just like.
Did
we
you
did on-
actually work with them and realize that they were going up 5,000 and maybe it just needed to be level funded, or did they not even
I did not speak to anybody from the
communicate with
adult.
you? They just submitted a number and,
Yes.
okay. So we don't have any idea where that would, well, come out of landscaping probably. But. Okay, thank you.
All set, Tom?
Yep.
Finley?
I'm all set, thank you.
Okay. All right, guys, I'm gonna ask if you want to take a sit back there for a few minutes until we bring you up again. And Terry, Mike, what I'm really looking for is a real 5-minute comment, to speak your thing. And I will also be bringing you back up during the maintenance part, whatever the next one's, grounds or whatever. But. Joe Nickel.
Thank you. As usual, the MYA is more than happy to work with the town and make things feasible from a financial standpoint as well as from a practical standpoint. We in the past have continued to support the town in all their financial woes and efforts to make the programs as well-heeled as they can, and obviously what we don't get from the town in more than one occasion will have to be made up with registration fees or additional efforts through our fundraising activities. We proposed a budget of $123,588 for this year, and I know the town manager is looking to level fund us, as we have been level funded for the last 4 or 5 years, and feel that we are always a forerunner of what the town does in the future, and feel at some point we need a little bit of a payback. For instance, would be we were cut in years when everybody else got a 2 and 3% increase, and that's why we're still bucking for that $4,000 or $5,000 increase that we never seem to get. We've again been the front runner with the MYA building, and it's being brought up to a standard of the 21st century, and the town manager is putting on the back burner Wasserman Park buildings, which are used maybe not every day, but they're used by a larger number of children than we certainly have run through our building on a daily basis or even a monthly basis. So we don't mind being the front runner, we kind of enjoy it, but at some point we need to be recognized for it, and sometimes that recognition would come in a form of remuneration. The besides a pat on the back, which we all enjoy doing the work for the MYA. And so I'm looking to you guys to kind of use your best judgment in what's fair and reasonable for volunteers that give 125,000 hours a year free to the town on a consistent basis over the past 15 or so years. And we have been in existence for close to 40 years as a contracting entity with the town of Merrimack, so we're certainly here for the long haul and for the best interest of the community. And everyone in this room knows all of the strong points of the MYA. I don't really mean to preach, but I don't know how else to approach this at this point. Mike can certainly give us a lot of information statistical-wise as to why we need the funds. If we have to get into that, we'd be glad to answer that and any questions that anybody might have. That's all I have. Thank you. Mike, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a plea. Again, I think, as Terry mentioned, last year, I guess there was an additional $1.5 million cut, as I recall, and some portion of that $1.5 million came out of capital reserve funds. A month or so ago, I came before you with the CIP. You asked me to what do we want to do, what needs to get done, what's on the plate, what's around the corner, and we did that. In this budget, unfortunately, the capital reserve fund is zero, as it was last year. We were part of the, I guess, just under 400,000 of that $1.5 million, I think, was capital reserve funds. So we're also going to ask you to restore that.
Actually, just for the record, it was 1.8 that we cut, and then we restored 300,000 into it. I keep hearing it enough, so I just want to make sure it's 1.8, and then we put 300,000 back into the field.
Dave,
Yes?
your feet are starting to get tangled in the wire.
Oh.
At any rate, we're asking you to reconsider putting that capital reserve fund back in place. Last month, we came forward and showed you the CIP, where it would go, what it would be used for, and we weren't challenged on that in any way, shape, or form as to the reality of it. So this would fund that CIP effort, and that would be the second part of what we're here for this evening.
Okay, I'd like to address that real quick, and then I'll go around, but we always talk blunt, right? So let's talk blunt and not waste anyone's time. My gut feeling is, I can't speak for the other members of the council, but I would say realistically, I don't see that $100,000 coming into it. What I really believe, though, is if you want it, and I believe there's a reason for it, that's why I'm looking you all in the eye, I would put it as a petition warrant article and let the people, I'm just saying, I don't see it coming in from the thing. The people may very well want it, and they may believe it, and it's ultimately their vote. But if I want you to walk away with something, I really believe your best bet would be to try and put it as a petition warrant article. I mean, I really think it's something you ought to consider. And that's all, and I'm trying to say that from a very helpful way.
Yeah, we didn't understand that. It was petitioned and passed once. I don't know if there's a limitation or how that works. You would like us to do that again?
Well, basically what I'm saying is, right now we have 7 people sitting up here that the question was about putting that money in there. I guess I can't speak for the other 6, but I can speak for me. I don't see adding it to it only because we're trying to level fund it. That is not to say that it doesn't have merit, just like everything in this budget that is cut, some people feel has merit. All I'm saying is we all have to remember we still have a form of government that allows us to bypass us and go right to the voter. And I'm just saying it's something you may want to consider and say, if in their fiscal responsibility, or some might say irresponsibility, depending what side of the fence you're on, they don't feel it's right, that does not preclude you guys from going to the people and putting one out there. It's food for thought, and that's all I'm saying. Sometimes there's more than one way to skin a cow. And again, that's not to say the other 6 may not have different feelings, but give it, I mean, you guys got a lot of support out there, you know, and it's really not a political thing, and it may be a way, but that's all. Anything else, Mike, before we begin going around the table?
Thank you.
Okay. Tom?
I have nothing, thank you.
Nancy?
Neither do I.
Mike, you had questions?
Yeah, I did, actually. Did you say that already was on a warrant article for capital reserve?
I don't know how many years ago, it's probably, I'm guessing 6, 7?
Some number like that.
It was a while
In
ago. It
in
was
that
a while.
vicinity, yeah, we started it
How'd it do?
for the purpose of setting aside money year after year after year for the CIP for athletic fields. At the time, there was nothing in place, and that's why we started it, so we petitioned it, it passed. The downside of that petition, very frankly, was there was not a specified amount in the original warrant article. It was, should we do this?
Now you know better.
Do we do?
And, excuse me, and, how bad would it hurt, actually, the programs if you did raise the fees?
How bad would it hurt the program?
Yeah, do you think you'd actually get a loss of kids joining if
No,
you
no.
did a 2% raise on the fees or anything?
No, no. What we do is if people can't afford it, we still bring them into the program. We just manage to make the ends meet. We would probably expend less money in equipment if we saw a terrible turnaround in participation because of financial constraints. We do manage to manipulate what funds we have. That's probably part of the problem of me always coming up here asking for more money, because I never say it's gonna hurt the MYA as far as the participants go. But what it does, it weakens the fabric of the financial wherewithal of the program. At some point, we won't be able to buy the equipment that we've been able to buy, or maintain certain things that the town doesn't maintain or the school district can't maintain. We help we kick in and buy certain items. We helped out with the dugouts at the high school field and the batting cage last year, different fundraising events that we have. People get frustrated when they don't see the town doing their part, and we always go on the backs of the participants and the fundraisers. What it does is it just weakens the whole organization a little bit. They kind of say, geez whiz, the town is doing less and less, and we're doing more and more, and we don't get a dime for it. That's the reality of it. In time, it just weakens the strength of the group. They get frustrated and say, hey, we're being played for a sucker. Not that we're at that point by any means, but.
Now, my other question was, I realize some kids play 2 sports, and they might play 3 sports, but what is the total population of kids that you guys have joined up for all these programs?
We have this year about 4,352 participants for this current 2005, 2006 fiscal year.
And I think that was it for me. Oh, I did have one more question. How is the MYA building moving on? I know that might be out of wrong place, wrong time.
Well, yeah, for other reasons.
We should be in the building within, by the 15th of January. We're working between the electrical contractor, the phone company, and the alarm company to code and execute their step-by-step procedures to initiate the alarm system. We're 6 weeks out of the building over the time limit. We were supposed to be back in the beginning of December, and now it's the 8th of January. We're still not in, another week. So 6 weeks behind tentative schedule.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. I'm just going to kind of say what you already said, Terry. I mean, basically, there's a balance. There's a balance between community involvement, parents, coaches, and the town. And from our end, I appreciate everything you've done for us. But at the same time, I hope you recognize, and I know you do, is during this, during these last couple of years, as we've tried to reduce it, I don't believe anyone has said, let's pick on the MYA. In fact, last year, when the town manager's cuts came out, the MYA was targeted very significantly, and the members of this council that were on the board at the time voted not to. In fact, you were hit on the basketball court, and we did that with your permission. I mean, you stood up there, and we said, Terry is, I mean, we did, and you said you could work with that. So I'm just saying.
And we still can, yes.
We do understand it's a balance, and that's it. I mean, I appreciate everything you do, and we work with it, and during this whole thing, we're trying to work on the town as a whole, we're not trying to target, and that's why I'm the first one to say, I mean, everyone has to remember that, whether the library, there is always the final option, and that's the people, and that's why, you know, don't be shy about going out there, but we thank you what you do, and that's it, thank you. Tom?
I don't really have anything to add at this point. I did want to ask real briefly, if they were to petition, what's the policy for that in the charter? I mean, it used to be they just needed 25 signatures to put.
They still do. That's it. They did, there's
Goes straight to
two.
the warrant, or does it come to the town council and the town council has to decide to put it on the warrant?
No. The petition warrant article for an appropriation is the same process that was used with the Board of Selectmen form. Because the other option is to come to the floor and move a higher amount on the floor. That's their other option.
Okay,
That,
thank you.
that option's not binding, right?
Pardon?
That option's not binding, right?
No, and the warrant article might not be either.
Because that could be changed at the DS.
Well, you won't have to spend it.
If the warrant article is to put it in a capital reserve account? You can-
Yeah, you won't have to spend the money.
No, but you have to put it in this capital reserve account, don't you?
Well, no, because we've already zeroed that out.
Well, it doesn't mean that the year after you have to put in the same amount. The warrant article was a one-year thing. Right. But I mean, unless you write some verbiage in it that says it's ongoing, but I don't think you can do that. I think you'd have to have a warrant article each year putting in a certain amount if you wanted to keep a minimum amount. But I would have thought that it was, the vote of the people was kind of a requirement that you do that, at least for that year.
It's arguable, okay?
By that.
I'm not saying I'm not saying that, predecessor boards haven't honored that vote, okay? But there are, not necessarily this community, but in other communities, they may not be required to set that money aside. Because don't forget, that lapses after a year.
Finley, do you have your hand up?
I just think if it's the will of the people and they vote in the affirmative.
It's gonna be hard to not
reserve
do it.
fund, that's where it's gonna go. I can't imagine.
No, I'm
it
not,
being
I'm
otherwise.
not, but
But you don't have to, is your point.
Yeah, I just don't
Right.
want them walking out of there
Oh.
saying it was a good idea till Tom talked.
no. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. It's just that, don't, the expectation is high that would be complied with, okay? But it's not a guarantee.
It's not a requirement. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
I think we all know where we are on that. I would say you odds are probably that than waiting for us to give it to you, but that's just my thought. I personally believe that, I think you would be in good hands, is my opinion, that if you voted it, that the will of the people would be followed. But as Tom has said, he's doing what he does, and I thank goodness for you, and I mean that. You're pointing out the facts. We can all think it, but remember, there's still door number 3 over there that someone may open. I hope you do it. I think.
The lady or the tiger?
Yeah. Ben?
This little thing. I apologize. Dave, you'd mentioned last week and again tonight that there were actually $1.8 million in cuts and $300,000 were put back.
Yeah.
Did those go back into the capital reserve funds?
No, the 300,000 went back into the extra fuel savings, like you heard us saying $3.15 per gallon, where originally it was $2.65. That 300,000 was taken, and it was the vote of the majority of the board felt. In other words, once we cut the 1.8, we couldn't keep it. The people said what they want. We couldn't say we're going to take another 300,000 from you. So the decision was, after we made our 1.8, the majority of the board said, well, that 300,000, we have to put it, and the best place to put it is, at the time, the fuel prices were going crazy, people were talking $5 a gallon. We said, let's just take it across the board and add it to the fuel. So that's what happened with it. Yep. Anything else? Yes.
Just one comment on the Parks and Recreation budget. I know it's really not the MYA say, but we do work closely with the Parks and Recreation Director on a pretty much 12-month basis in field space and getting springtime-ready repairs and improvements for spring operations. We do begin in January and February to let the town know what our plans are for the spring, what our schedules are, so they can plan their work. I don't know what the real aim of a part-time recreation director is.
Save money.
I understand that, but maybe you're not going to save money because you're going to run into difficulties. Who's going to be in charge of maintenance? Department of Public Works certainly can't perform the maintenance for the fields that we use because they've just about surrendered it or failed miserably during the 2 years that we had meetings on a monthly basis with Ed Chase and Company. It was the agenda was never changed after the last 6 months because things never got done. Then Mike Milligan, acting town manager, decided to put it in the hands of the Parks and Recreation Department, and that plan was going to come into fruition coming this spring. And we don't want to see that cut short. We'd like to see they give that a run. Well, we'd be terribly disappointed if we're back with the Department of Public Works. They certainly couldn't manage taking care of the MYA building as a clerk of the works because they had too many other things to do. I can't possibly see how they could maintain all the fields during the summertime. That's the first thing they complain about. They don't have help and they can't take care of our needs. So something to consider. Be happy to speak with you at length about it at another time, but I just wanted to plant that seed at this time.
Finley, I saw you with your hand up. Can I jump in real quick? Because I have been something I've been dying to say all night. In fact, I've been dying to say it since I talked to Keith a couple of days ago. And it's something that's going to sound kind of bizarre. And before you really say anything, I recommend you say nothing and give it some thought. What if you were to come up, what if cutting edge, if our goal at Merrimack is to always find a smarter way to do things and improve the quality of life, and we have all these volunteers, what if you were to go with a proposal to the town manager for the MYA as a volunteer body to take over the position of the Director of Parks and Rec? Keep knowing that you have other things besides the MYA, but because then you can have your cake and eat it too. There's nothing like being the top dog. But what if there was a way to say, we're going to be responsible for everything, but our volunteers will assure that everyone gets taken care of, and that way you don't ever have to be out in the cold. And I know it's a bold thing, but I'm just saying it's a thought. Because you are a big part of the project. That's all. Just throwing it out there, and I know it sounds crazy, but thought it'd be something to think about. Finley?
I just was wondering, Terry, Mike, if you, I sit currently, believe it or not, in the school district budget committee, and they're beginning that process of going through their budget, the school district's budget. There was discussion, and has been discussion about the overtime maintenance, the maintenance overtime line item and the potential of that being cut. Currently, the school district covers, I think it was $24,000 in overtime costs that covers games and all that type of thing. If in fact that's cut, would that be something that the MYA would be able to absorb in some fashion?
Sure. We come back to the town and increase our budget. That's pretty much what we do. We cut it out of the budget through our basketball program, did away with that as a line item expense. But if the school district is back to charging us, we would add that in as a line item expense as we have in the past, to be perfectly
The reason we got rid of that was people realized you were taking it from one pocket and put it in the other.
Right.
And so they decided just to eliminate it. If it went back, we would just play that same shell game. If you're gonna get charged for gym time, somebody has to pay for it.
Right, and I just didn't know how that might be, and that hasn't happened, and I don't know whether or not it will, but I know it has been chatted about.
That emanated from the school board. That was not an MYA request of the school district. That was them coming forward to us and us working out an agreement that obviously would be in our best interest. So I don't want you to think that we had any interest in trying to get the jump on anybody or get any financial gains from it. Basketball immediately dropped that as an expense item.
Right.
Yeah.
Anything else? No. What I'd like to do, guys, is, since you're comfortably sitting in those seats, and you're kind of here as commentators anyways, just to give your opinions, per se, why don't you, from there, take your 5 minutes and give us your opinion? You've already alluded a little bit about your feelings on park maintenance, but this is your opportunity to be heard, and then from there, we'll bring Ernie and Bruce back up. So we have now moved from Parks and Recreation to Parks Maintenance.
Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Mike Ruggiero. That's part of his charge as the MYA Vice President, and then I'll chime in as I feel.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have a copy of that budget in front of me, so, Parks Maintenance?
Yeah.
Oh, we actually did review this, Bruce. We reviewed this. Yeah. As it's submitted to you, Dave, we were in agreement with the cuts and said this would be our, yes, we can get away with these things for another year, and this makes sense. So we did not have any issues with this at all.
Okay. All right, well, thank you guys very, very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, we're coming down the home stretch. Parks and Maintenance. Okay, Keith, you're up.
Right? Excuse me. The parks maintenance budget in 06-07 was $458,000. I recommended a budget of $453 for 2007-08. So there really is no changes. The one area I'd make the council aware of is under infrastructure. Bruce or Ernie had suggested putting some bleacher pads down under one of the bleacher sections for $8,000. That happened to be one of the areas that ended up getting cut out of my proposed budget. The other major change was the MYA had requested $84,300, and we looked to try to level fund that as best we could to the 2006-07 budget. So really, other than that, personnel changes, there's no personnel changes at all, nor any significant changes to supplies or equipment.
Okay, Finley, we'll start with you.
Mr. Chairman, I didn't say it for the Parks and Rec budget. That was a staff of 3. There's one position vacant, and the other 2 are not retiring. Trying to answer the questions that were asked prior to. Park maintenance has a full-time staff of 5. There's currently 1 vacancy from a death a short while ago, and we do almost on a constant basis anticipate a probable re-retirement.
Yes.
Sometime over the next year.
Re-retirement?
It's one of the mechanics came back to work, just cutting the grass and things like that. In his retirement, he's on Social Security, so he just came back.
So he would just be quitting, he wouldn't necessarily be retiring?
Well, I use that a little tongue in cheek.
Okay, I just wanted to understand, thanks.
Yes,
So one is leaving one way, probably.
very probably. He threatens us weekly. Just to bring you up to speed on that, you were asked for that
Thank you very
information
much.
prior to.
Thank you. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. Finley, did you say you all set?
I'm all set, Dave.
Tom?
I think we've understood most of them. Infrastructure, the 8,000, was that the pads or in line 8505?
Yes, sir. The cement pads and the bleachers.
Cement pads?
Yes.
Okay. I was somehow thinking soft pads.
I was too.
Asphalt pads, yeah.
I was wondering how they were gonna handle the weather.
Yeah, no, asphalt pads under the bleacher, actually for an ADA compatible area, which would extend under the existing bleachers. we had it in last year's budget. We asked for it again, just hoping against hope, I guess. The fields, other than the new field on Turkey Hill, are all grandfathered for ADA, so we really don't have to do anything with them. But maintaining, cutting the weeds that grow up underneath the bleachers is a very time-consuming thing. And if we can run a continuous strip of asphalt such that it meets ADA requirements and in addition extends out underneath the bleacher pads, then we have the opportunity to do well by doing good, by cutting down on the maintenance time, getting a little more efficient on the maintenance of the area, and at the same time making the places ADA compatible. So that's what that was all about.
So that's 8505. In here, the bleacher pads is zeroed out, and there's a ADA parking areas, and so you've got that. And the MYA had 8,000 for.
That was last year's? No.
Yeah, probably.
Yes.
That was the
Yeah,
$9,000 for the current year.
Right, that's for this year.
Okay. So there's nothing in there for
Correct.
infrastructure.
Yeah, correct, there's nothing on the
And
infrastructure.
you would have wanted to put in 8,000 for bleacher pads. The MYA budget has 8,000 cut out of it for bleacher pads.
The same thing,
Comma
yes.
asphalt.
Yes.
So we wanted it
That
twice.
got cut out, right, that cut out.
We just cut it out of two different lines.
Yeah, there are, I can't,
In the MYA area, that would be down at Bice Field. Areas like Bice Field is associated exclusively for MYA, whereas Martell Field and some of the other fields are not exclusively used by MYA, therefore it was in the 500 series.
yeah, just to be clear, you will see maintenance for athletic fields under 8371, and those are all for MYA fields. You'll see turf maintenance, for example, under 8322, maintenance ground in two different areas. One of them is for the non-athletic areas. The other one is for the adult league fields. So you have a clear accounting of the general park areas versus adult athletics versus the MYA. So you may see redundant, like you see redundant fertilizer, redundant seed, you see redundant ADA pads,
Okay.
either under 8371 or 8322, depending upon whether they are for the MYA or whether they're for the adult leagues.
Okay. And then in the 8322, it's down $1,000 from last year. I didn't look through carefully to see that, but did you mention, Keith, why that was down, or is that just, we can save 100 here and 100 there, or?
It's two line items. It's, Twin Bridge Park landscaping.
Stabilization's down 500, and the nursery stock is down $500, so it's two line items.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you, Paul. And we just don't need as much nursery stock to replace, or we just,
We just won't do it.
This is actually something I did, just trying to tweak some of the numbers down. This is a fully unionized thing, the pay increases were there, so, we had to find some of these cuts from someplace.
Just trying to prioritize where the cuts had to be. So we have the budgeted amount they asked for, but just trying to prioritize the numbers, it just wasn't a high one.
okay, thanks. I'm all set.
Thank you. Keith, the only question I have is, Terry and Mike Ruggiero mentioned it, is conceptually, do you see the oversight of this department still being done by Parks and Rec? In other words, before they kind of worked DPW and then he switched it over?
I've had a couple of, I've spoken to Ed Chase a bit about it. My initial reaction is to keep it separate in the Parks and Recreation. I think it just works better, but I want to talk to these guys as well as Mike and Ed Chase and try to make a final decision on what goes on, but I think Mike's concern was there was kind of a level of bureaucracy before that seemed kind of thick, and by moving it over to the recreation director, we started to minimize that bureaucracy, and things were getting accomplished one way or another a little bit easier than they were. So I'd like to have that conversation with everybody. We haven't had the opportunity to do that yet, but these guys would know better about that type of stuff than I would. So I'd like to get their input, but I guess the short answer is we haven't made a final decision yet, but I would think that unless somebody can convince me otherwise, it would stay in the Parks and Rec.
On that too, and again, it's your decision to make by all means, but if you did want input from the council, I wouldn't be against that being an agenda item, because we kind of got dragged in the middle of that during that, so that's why. Okay, thank you. Okay. Mike?
Yes. On the portable toilets,
Yes.
do we have a number of those that we get?
I can get you that.
It fluctuates throughout the year?
Yeah, it varies throughout the year.
Yeah.
There are two that stay out all winter long. All the rest of them are at the athletic fields, and it depends upon what is playing at the time, how many participants there are, and et cetera.
Would it be cheaper for us to buy them and have a company come and empty them? No, I'm just asking.
My feeling is, our present supplier has a price that's well below anyone else's, and my guess is that it would probably not be.
Okay. Then my other one was under 8382, contractual tree work. I think I seen do we have a new bucket truck ourselves, new cherry picker truck ourselves that we have just received?
We do. The way we use contractual tree work, if there is a tree over a power line, over a building, in some location where there would be a substantial liability for us to cut it, we go do an outside service and basically scrape the liability off on them. To be perfectly honest,
Yeah, but
I mean, that's what we do.
They're bonded for that, let them use it.
They're bonded for that.
Oh, they've got more
Correct.
experience with it, too.
Right. We do make the best deal we can with them. For example, we often have them, especially if
Right.
they're over a power line, they take them down, we cut them up. we haul
But
'em
basically, though, if a tree isn't near anything that's dangerous, then you
Oh,
don't even need
no,
a
we
bucket,
do it.
you can just cut it and
Yeah,
drop it.
right, yeah, no, we do that all the time. We've probably taken out 50 trees just this year out of Wasserman Park. And none of them were over a building or near a power line.
And you still use the
We
bucket,
just
you didn't just drop them?
No, we just drop them.
So that's my point. So did we really need the cherry picker truck?
Oh, yeah. The cherry picker truck is actually a highway truck. We have access to it, we can borrow it. But it's actually for highway work. And they use it for changing street lights and putting up signs and, that sort of thing.
It's also used
I'm not an
more
expert
in the
on
trimming, brush overhang in the street.
Yeah, they
More
do
of a
a
trimming
substantial
purposes
amount.
rather than tree removal.
They did a beautiful job on my street. So I'm keeping my
Figures.
mouth shut on the whole situation. Looks nice.
Used it to put up the flags of 4th of July, so,
We got a lot of fire trucks with big ladders too, guys.
Yeah, I mean, we are free to borrow it. I have operators who are trained on it. So if there's a circumstance where you need to piece out a tree, we can borrow it. We
Okay.
borrow it to paint second-story buildings and stuff like that.
What's that? Thank you.
You know what I was gonna say when they were talking about when they cut stuff, if could be liability, they use the outside concern, and if not, we do it. Like if there was a big tree hanging over your house and they had to go, I forgot you don't have a house right now.
It's all fun and games till someone gets poked in the eye, Mr.
Nancy?
I have no questions.
Tom, bring it home, baby.
8107, what is supplemental staff? Wages, part-time.
Part-time seasonal help, summertime, extra people to, not extra, people to cut the grass and trimming so that you don't have to use equipment operators to do
That's
it.
based on, that's based on the number of hours to get 2 people for 6 months and another 4 people for basically the length of time for June, July, August, during the heaviest part of the mowing season. The 2 people that start for 6 months are basically devoted to the MYA. They stripe the fields, they do twice a week trash run. They drag the paraphernalia out onto the fields. They drag it off the fields in the fall.
Okay.
Tom, if I can just throw in, we've gone over that line item several times in the past couple of years because it seemed like overtime money or something like that, but it avoids us having to hire somebody full-time by bringing in seasonal help and being able to bring them in for
No, it's
short
something that could
duration,
be
short money.
potentially contracted when it gets to a certain level. If all you're doing is mowing lawns. If all they're doing is mowing lawns, then all you have to worry about is the equipment being dragged onto a field or off a field on a seasonal basis. That's, and at $36,000, that-
Let me say, we have 50 acres of ball field, at 49.97 acres of ball field, and we.
They're
have
always
14
saying we don't have enough. We have 50 acres of ball.
Yeah, there are 50 acres of ball field, and of that, probably 3 acres is for adult athletics. So we have 50 acres of ball field total. We have 14 acres of general lawn area. We cut 4, in addition to the ball fields and the parks, we do 4 cemeteries. We do Fraser Square, the Depot Street Boat Ramp, bunch of miscellaneous areas like that, small, relatively small areas. There used to be, when I first started, they had a line item in the budget for $10,000 for doing the mowing at just the 4 cemeteries. You pencil with that, I think, well, you got at least a 6-month growing season. It's probably more like a 7 or 8-month growing season that it has to be cut, and it has to be cut weekly, should be cut weekly. And you figure the amount of trimming that has to be done in addition to the grass. And $10,000, that's not, it works out that, geez, that's not a bad price for that. But we do the 4 cemeteries, we do the rest of the parks, we do 50 acres of ball field, and we do it basically for $36,000. To me, that's an unbeatable price because we can set up for it. The ball fields are large areas. The smallest park that we do is Bice Field, for example, Little League Park. It runs a little bit over an acre in size. Right? We cut that. We cut all the ball fields. We do all of our bulk mowing with 72-inch cut mowers. That's a 6-foot cut mower. Now they overlap a little. You have to overlap a little bit to make sure that you get it each time. And they cut at 10 miles an hour. We can fly when we do the bulk mowing. There aren't many contractors that have that kind of equipment, frankly. We do very well given the amount of acreage that we've got and what it's costing the public.
Tom?
all set. By the way, that's 2 million square feet.
Thank you. I could have told you that. I have it right here.
Mike?
Yeah, I just had one more quick question, and it was about on 8322, and it was median irrigation Horseshoe Pond condominiums. Just out of my own curiosity, I mean, it's a small number, but do we actually pay for irrigation on the median there?
We, from time to time, so far, it's never happened while I've worked for the town. But apparently, there is an irrigation system down there, and there was some deal cut years ago. Bruce is a townie, he would be able to tell you what that's all
Yeah,
about.
when the Horseshoe Pond condominium complex went in, as a conjunctive measure, Island Drive, which used to be a gravel area, got irrigated, and there was an agreement with the then Director of Public Works, maybe Town Manager, that we'll help maintain, that's a draw from the pond irrigation system, it's not an MVD system. So once in a while, they knock on our door to help pay for the irrigation maintenance costs, repairs of pumps and things like that. So we get Island Drive, which is now a green area, right across from King Cone, by the way. Irrigated, and like Ernie says, no one's listening on the, I also.
Oh, they'll be knocking on the door tomorrow, Bruce.
Yeah.
I also do not know when the last time they've asked us for a nickel, but it's a placeholder if we have a commitment for, they irrigate, we help pay for their mechanics.
We don't cut that too, do we? Or does, is it still wood chip?
Yes and no.
Getting all the answers here I want.
The association has been cutting it until 2 years ago, at which point we were asked to cut it. And however it happened, we were asked to cut it, and we did it for that year. Last year, then, I told my fellas, as you drive past there, if it looks ratty, cut it, and if it doesn't, well,
Is it town land?
you know, it is town land.
town land. Island Drive
It is town land. But someone was going out there and cutting the thing, so we did not do much actual cutting last year.
Thank you.
Okay, everybody all set? All right, gentlemen, thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, well, I guess first I'll go to Keith. Keith, do you have any comments you'd like to make?
The only thing I wanted to just to make the council aware of, as the council's asked me questions, and we've told them we get back to them, and you haven't seen me write anything down, almost like I've been disinterested. I've got a person taking copious notes in the audience, who, what we're gonna try to do is hopefully Thursday, we're gonna bring back a list of all the questions from the fourth meeting. If there were general questions or by department with the answers to that, so, and we'll have a running list for that, just so the council has something they can reply or refer back to when needed in the budget process. I hope that helps the process out. So that's all I wanted to make people aware of.
Thank you very much. Okay, next up, comments from the public. Okay. Then I'll go to comments from council, begin with Finley.
I'm set, thank you.
I think I'm all set, thank you.
Nothing to say.
Yeah, after the meeting last Thursday night, Betty asked me to sort of give her a timeline for some things we have to get done, that might have to get done under the charter in terms of the warrant, mainly any charter amendments. We're going to have to hold some form of a public hearing for that. There's a process in state law that covers that. I'll have the information for you Thursday night about what that process is, but essentially we have to publish a notice and hold a hearing. And the notice has to be published 7 days before the hearing. And we have to get an opinion from an attorney that the changes that we're proposing aren't in violation of any state or federal laws. It's similar to what we did with the original charter in terms of the opinion of the attorney, but that's one of the pieces that's there. Part of this is that because of this is a new process, the amount of time or the window we have to work on these things shrinks rapidly between now and the end of this month in order to meet the timelines that are contained in the charter for some of the things that are in there. So she just asked me to pull that together as sort of an outline. Like I said, I'll have that for you Thursday night.
Okay. Anybody have anything else? All right, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes 6-0-0. Thank you.
Hello, Merrimack, and welcome to my TV show. We got a great show for you today. Today we're going to be talking about rock climbing.
I'm a pretty busy guy. Work, the gym, dating. I can't always watch Merrimack TV. So every morning when I wake up, I put on the patch.
Merrimack TV has cameras, editing facilities, even a TV studio, and training for all of it, free to Merrimack residents. And now we're going to go over the rock climbing equipment.
There's only one thing I like more than watching my own show on Merrimack TV.
Bag and ball, harness, rope, and most important.
And that's making my own show on Merrimack TV.